Good afternoon. Today is the 11th of August, 2025, just after 1 o'clock. Welcome to UK Column News. I'm your host, Brian Gerrish. Delighted to have Ben Rubin with me in the studio. And we'll be joined by Diane Rasmussen-McAddy via link from the northeast of England. And I will just say, if you look out of the window behind me, you can see we've got a very grey day in Plymouth. There's a bit of drizzle. There's certainly full cloud cover, not particularly hot. So we're surviving here. We'll say a little bit more about climate at the end of today's news. But let's start with some serious events, and that was really over the weekend. On Saturday, Palestine Action, when of course we saw some pretty incredible scenes between the police and the general public, many of whom were arrested on the basis that they'd now become terrorists, no matter what their age or background. Let's have a look at how the Guardian portrayed things.
People complicit in the genocide. Arrest the people that are selling arms, that are bombing, killing, allowing the starving of a whole nation.
Well, there we are, Ben. That's how the Guardian portrayed things. So lots of noise. You got the impression that this was a pretty brutal reaction with the police, and not a lot of information, apart from the Guardian being keen to warn people at the end of the video that you dare support Palestine Action, you are going to be branded a terrorist and you can face up to 14 years in prison. Well, luckily, UK Column was able to report from the scenes. Let's have a look at this alternative clip, which has kindly been shot for the UK Column by Will.
Excuse me, madam, what's happening?
My chair.
Yeah? Madam, why?
They're arresting me for protesting genocide. They should be arresting the genociders and the arms dealers and the politicians who are colluding.
Hello, this is Will Coleshill reporting for UK Column. We're down here today in Parliament Square. You can see Big Ben behind me, and the police are one by one picking off members, or supporters at least, of the group Palestine Action, which has been prohibited as a so-called terrorist group for throwing paint on a plane, which many think is criminal damage. The police are grabbing the people one by one, and it looks like these people are going to be tried, charged, and possibly imprisoned as terrorists for holding up signs saying they support an organisation which commits criminal damage.
Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you!
Why are you out here today, sir?
To exercise my fundamental human rights.
Are you willing to go to prison?
Absolutely.
What do you think about being labelled as a terrorist, sir?
It's snortingly ridiculous.
Could it be the thin end of the wedge, sir?
Absolutely. We're on the way down to a totalitarian state. Shame on you!
What do you think of what's happening?
I think it's the death of democracy, the death of freedom, the death of free speech. And it's frightening, completely frightening to see this in the 21st century. We've had it.
Was that the plan? Did you want to overturn international law? Was that the point of joining the police?
What do you think of this, sir?
I think it's shameful. I think it's absolutely disgusting. This is our democratic right to stand here and protest, and the policemen are stopping something that is no crime.
It's shocking. It's absolutely shocking. I've never seen anything like this in this country. This is a disgrace. This will go down in history.
Shame on you!
I am almost speechless.
They shouldn't be arresting people that are just trying to protest. Most of them are retirees. We've seen retired vicars. We've seen doctors. We've seen grandparents. peaceful people just protesting against the genocide are being arrested by the Met Police, who don't have the brains to think for themselves. They're just foot soldiers for a genocide. They're following orders, the orders of a genocidal government that is committing genocide right now in Israel.
Ron's commander, is this a proportionate response?
We're enforcing people that are breaching legislation, sir.
Do people not have a right to free speech, sir? What do you think about this terrorist classification for criminal damage?
It's absolutely absurd.
Palestine Action are a group that peacefully protested about a genocide that's killed, depending on who you hear, 400,000 official number, 60,000 odd. But it's probably going to be far more than that. And at the end of the day, they were doing the work that other people wanted them to do. Now they've been prescribed as terrorists because they threw paint on rented aircraft. Nah, not my cup of tea. This isn't Britain. This is a fascist state.
It's really simple. UN experts have called for the UK government to rescind the prescription of Palestine Action. The UN experts have said there is no internationally agreed definition of terrorism, but consensus is that it is damage and intentional damage or harm to civilians for political gains, not property. Palestine Action have only ever gone for property. They've made that very clear. There's already existing legislation to cover that. There's criminal damage, there's trespassing, all sorts of legislation they could draw on. It's politically motivated because they were so shamed by some people getting into the RAF site and spray painting a plane. They were so humiliated that they've prescribed the organisation doing it. But as you can see, the people are against it, and we will keep coming.
It makes a mockery of the law.
And it's very selective because the Quakers have been doing action like that for years, and it gets ignored. They're not arrested. So other organisations have done this, but it's only because it's Palestine that all of a sudden that's labelled as terrorism. Yet other organisations have done this in the past. I know the Quakers have.
Yeah.
So they're standing by the principles and doing the right thing.
It's just piece by piece eroding away our rights to demonstrate, to protest, the democracy, and it's just piece by piece. It's slipping away from us.
You can do what you have to do. Ready, guys?
Who do you serve? Who do you protect? Who do you serve? Who do you protect? Who do you serve? Who do you protect?
I think that we are now on such a dangerous position that we are in trouble of losing all freedom.
Do you think that many people are going to be acquitted by juries?
Yes. Yeah, the public opinion is on the side of the people.
And do you think that more people are going to come out and do this if they continue locking people up?
Yes, I don't think this will stop now.
They need to be exonerated by a jury, and Starmer and his government need to apologise for getting this so very badly wrong.
You want other people who may not even agree with you on Palestine to stand up for these people upon principle of free speech?
Absolutely, absolutely. Free speech is for everyone, and there might be people that I disagree with their opinion fundamentally, but I will definitely stand up for their right to have free speech.
Yeah, no, agree completely. They're not doing anything wrong.
We've seen arrests for this before, but now this seems to be the biggest that we've seen so far, and it seems like this is an issue which isn't going away, and more people are going to be ended up in prison or on trial for stating the words, "I support Palestine Action." This is Will Coleshill reporting for UK Column.
Just expressing support for the prescribed organisation.
So excellent report by Will Coleshill there. And of course, the contrast with the Guardian report, where no substance, no interaction with the public are obviously deeply concerned. It really shows the manipulation of the mainstream media. Now, towards the end of Will's report there, a member of the public was talking about the power of the jury to do something. And I think this is the time when we need to flag up the government's other attack at the moment, which is on just that, juries. And the man in question is retired Judge Brian Levison, who the UK column has reported on many occasions. But centre screen, you've got his independent review of the Criminal Courts Part 1. We just wanted to make sure people knew that aside from attacking the jury system, it's quite clear, and many people are commenting on this, that he seems determined to get rid of more and more opportunities for people to be tried by a jury of their peers. We noticed that on the front cover, he's also promoting the Talmud, uniquely amongst other neutral comments about justice. So make your own mind up. But of course, if we have a look at what Keir Starmer is talking about at the moment, then he is pushing heavily, of course, for things to go in Israel's favour in Gaza. Let's have a listen to this little clip from the 29th of July.
On the 7th of October 2023, Hamas perpetrated the worst massacre in Israel's history. Every day since then, the horror has continued. The hostages are still being held today. The Palestinian people have endured terrible suffering. Now, in Gaza, because of a catastrophic failure of aid, we see starving babies, children too weak to stand, images that will stay with us for a lifetime. Our goal remains a safe and secure Israel alongside a viable and sovereign Palestinian state.
Well, there we are. Obviously, that's a section of his full speech. Was edited, but the meaning of what he had to say was not changed. It's clear that the priority is Israel, and all the troubles in Gaza are simply the result of not being able to get food in. No mention of bombing and indiscriminate killing at all. It's simply a problem in getting food in. Now, he has also made a recent statement, and this was pushed out on Defence HQ, the government's MOD propaganda machine. And here he's saying that the Israeli government's decision to further escalate its offensive in Gaza is wrong, and we urge it to reconsider immediately. Then again, he's talking about humanitarian aid. But he goes on to say that together with our allies, we're working on a long-term plan to secure peace in the region as part of a two-state solution and ultimately achieve a brighter future for Palestinians and Israelis. Well, that's putting a lot of gloss over it. But the key thing is, while he's supposedly talking peace, UK, the US, and indeed many countries in the EU are going to pump in the weapons to keep that slaughter of the Palestinians in Gaza going. So the hypocrisy truly breathtaking. But now we've reached the stage where ordinary British people on the streets protesting about this genocide and brutality have become the terrorists. And not only that, of course, we're seeing attack on Jewish people themselves. Thank you very much for the viewer who picked up this Oxford Mail report. This is Miriam Margolyes, who was one of the Harry Potter stars as an actress. And what's the attack about? Well, she said this. She's Jewish herself. She spoke to the big issue about Israel's military campaign in Gaza. She said it reminded her of the Holocaust and added, "The terrible thing I face is that Hitler won. He changed us. He made us like him." So this lady clearly very upset and disturbed at what she was seeing happen. But what was the result? Well, the result was a massive attack on her by the campaign against anti-Semitism. Now, I've attributed the remarks in the paper which came from the organisation to the chief executive, Gideon Falter. He said, or the organisation said, the remarks are repugnant. The fact she was born Jewish does not give her licence to use her immense platform to spread, quote, anti-Jewish venom. It went on to say, this has to be the end of the road. She must be shunned by the showbiz world that has fawned and bowed until now. So there you have it. You can be Jewish, you can criticise the Israeli government for its policy of killing in Gaza. You will then be attacked by organisations which, as we'll see from this next image, boast that they are working alongside the police, CPS and regulatory bodies and government in order to enforce rules and regulations against anybody they deem to be anti-Semitic. But I'm going to say to you, I found this really a dangerous situation where even Jewish people themselves are now being silenced in talking out about these horrors in the Middle East by the Israeli government and their agents, which are operating in UK alongside the police, government agencies and the British government. It's almost like everybody who dares speak out for peace is going to be labelled a terrorist inside this country, whether you're Jewish or non-Jewish.
Seems to be the playbook, yes.
Indeed. Diane, let's welcome you in at this point, because, of course, whilst there's plenty of money for the weapons and the bombs and the ammunition going into Israel to help it perpetuate its attack on Gaza, we've got an NHS that is in absolute chaos in UK.
Yes, very much. Thanks, Brian. And hello, everyone. It's good to be here today. I wanted to follow up on a couple of things. First of all, from May of 2024 was the first time that UK Column covered this issue of the new hospitals that are meant to be put around the country. But this tip-off recently came from a viewer in Consett, County Durham, up here where I am in the northeast of England, concerns about the local hospital that is going to be replaced in his town, or that, at least that's the plan, apparently, to do so. The existing hospital in Consett is called Shotley Bridge Community Hospital, which opened in 1912. The NHS says the problem is that it leaks heat. Now, the new hospital is meant to be built near this site of this sculpture called the Terrace Novalis in Consett. This consists of two measuring instruments, a theodolite and an engineer's level. It's very, very large, and it's meant to mark the watershed between the upland and the moorland landscape and the extremes of the industrial age. The significance of this is that Consett, as an old steel town, was once Europe's largest steelworks, and this landmark is very important. Another concern is that in addition to the corruption and the waste that might be happening with this hospital, which we're going to look at, this is happening around England, by the way, is that it's possible that this landmark could be in danger, as well as the beautiful land that surrounds it. So after I received this tip-off, I went to do a little bit of a little photojournalism myself. This report comes from this photograph, which is part of the new hospital site, apparently, which has been confirmed last month by the BBC now, that the construction of the new hospital will be taking place. It's near a big retail park area where the old steel factory used to be. So here's a couple of photos, both from the different areas of the engineering site where they're basically doing testing on the ground. The council has previously said that the ground is not satisfactory for building, but I guess they're doing it anyway. So what's happening with the overall story of the hospitals around the country is a particular concern. This in particular is Project Genesis, which took over Consett years ago. I think it was in the 90s when the steel factory closed, and the Genesis project took over to try to do something with the city. So this is 1945 when the steel factory was still in operation. You can sort of see the area kind of in the middle, sort of off to the left of the town where the houses are. And if we go forward to the next view that Project Genesis provides in 2024, we can see that there's more housing that's taken over most of the steel factory. You can see the big buildings there that are the retail park. And the new hospital is set to take place to be built over the green space to the sort of the left of it. Project Genesis has taken over, as I said, a lot of the city. But the problem is that when we look at this from a wider perspective around England, we start to see the problems and how this might be taking place. If we go back to 2019, the general election, it was part of the manifesto for Boris Johnson to think about, what we're going to do with the hospitals. There he is in October of 2020 with Build Back Better, of course, in the background, because we're going back to this time when he was saying that this would be built as a package worth £3.7 billion for 40 hospitals at the time. This was called the Health Infrastructure Plan, said to be the biggest hospital building program in a generation. And the Shotley Bridge Hospital in Consett was going to be part of this at the time. Just to quote Boris Johnson to see where we were in the timeline, saying this, the dedication and tireless efforts of our nurses, doctors, and all healthcare workers have kept the NHS open through this pandemic. But no matter what this virus throws at us, we are determined to build back better and deliver the biggest hospital building program in a generation. And then Matt Hancock, of course, came in and supported him to say that. So we can see that there's lots of policy documents and so on from the UK government, which can be available in the show notes. So I won't go into too much detail. But by the time we get further into 2020, he says that we're going ahead with the hospitals. And there were lots of things around health boards around the country, different trusts talking about this. So I believe we now have a video from a GP speaking from the Lancashire area, and he was talking about this new hospital program.
I'm Jeff Jolliffe. I'm a GP here in Barrow-in-Furness, part of Lancashire and South Cumbria, and I'm also the chair of the CCG in Morecambe Bay. I sit on the clinical oversight group for the New Hospitals Programme. What is it, the New Hospitals Programme? It's a great opportunity, isn't it? It's a big lump of money to redevelop our hospitals. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We can't miss it. It's going to be great for the population. New Hospitals Programme might seem to not mean much to primary care, but it's actually vital, isn't it? Because we care for our patients, and our patients need good hospital care as part of the whole pathway. So there will be a huge knock-on benefit to our patients, and therefore to the way primary care works. An eye to the future, with more care closer to the patient's home, more care in community services, and we need to focus on doing in hospital only what we need to do. In addition, they provide an environment that is better for staff, better for patients, and an environment that patients flow better, so you end up with better outcomes. But assuming we get the money, and I'm hopeful of that, we can then start the process of identifying which is the best solution to spending that money. There's a big process, so it can't happen overnight, but we'll get there and we'll have them.
So that all sounds nice and lovely. So that was 2021. If we go forward a bit to 2023, we start to see the reporting coming from the government saying that this is now £20 billion. It was just, I think, just a few billion previously. So now we're talking about prioritizing the rebuilding of 5 hospitals that were using reinforced autoclaved aerated concrete, rebuilt by 2030 as part of the new hospital program, because they're saying that this material was not basically fit for purpose and that it was going to fall apart. So they identified 5 hospitals as well as many other hospitals around the country that needed to be built. So this new building, which again is going to include this hospital here in County Durham and many others, is using what they call standardized design that will harness digital transformation, making the use of latest technology for the benefit of staff and patients. And it's sustainable, contributing to net zero carbon across the NHS. So that's fabulous news, incorporating learning from the pandemic and ensuring hospitals can adapt to changing health needs. So this is how they're selling it in 2023 under something that they call Hospital 2.0, which is a standardized design for future hospitals, which will benefit patients and staff through digital solutions and optimize hospital layout. This will decrease the time needed to develop and build hospitals, as well as reducing the cost through economies of scale. So what we're seeing is what we've reported before in UK Column, that there's a trend towards digital management of health, less focus on physical space, less focus on human connection and the nurses and the doctors who support people. So going forward now to 2025, we are now seeing with Labour and Power. And what we're seeing is a report that came out. Basically, they did a review of what the Conservatives did looking at the new hospital program. So we have a quote from this policy paper that was published in January this year from Wes Streeting, our health secretary, saying the NHS is quite literally crumbling. And that's just one of the sentences. I just wanted to highlight that. The report itself, basically what they did is an evaluation of where we were with the hospital situation in England, to make it sort of prioritize what needed to be rebuilt, what was the most important thing to do, using a multi-criteria decision support analysis tool to look at which hospitals need to be prioritized and what could wait. So the map here, again, you can see this again in the policy documents yourself if you can't see it well on the screen, showing which hospitals had been highlighted to be part of the scheme and which ones were not, and which ones were going to be prioritized because of this concrete problem. We see in this list, there was a list of different waves through whether they were going to be prioritizing which hospitals. And so Shotley Bridge Community Hospital in Consett is in Table 2, Wave 1, which you can see in the report, to start construction between 2025 and 2030. And as we saw with my photos at the start of the segment, they are starting to look at the land underneath it. I went to also take some photos of the existing Shotley Bridge Community Hospital in Consett. These are my photos. You can't really see the signs because the trees and the bushes haven't been trimmed too well, but that's the sign to the entrance to the hospital. The outside of the hospital, I didn't go inside. I didn't want to draw any attention to myself, but that's the outside of the hospital. Still looks like it's in place, but they say it's leaky and the heating needs fixed. Apparently that's the problem. And there's a sign here of the different services that they offer. There are some people in the community who, from what I've heard, are concerned that some of these services will be going away. The new hospital, even though it's meant to cost about £500 million to build, I believe, is only going to have 16 beds in it. And so they're concerned that because of the size of the community that it serves, there will be a decrease in services. And I want to also highlight here the BBC reporting of the process of this hospital over time, where there was a lot of back and forth about what was going to happen. So first we see here, September 2023, the replacement is going to be delayed. They talk about issues with funding, issues with resources. October 2023, I've got several links here to, these are all BBC articles, many millions of pounds over budget, a hospital plan reviewed over spiraling costs. This was in September 2024, just reading the headlines here. There was a home scheme that was put on hold as the new hospital has been put under review, where they were talking about building homes for elderly people, calling it a health village. It sounds a little bit concerning, to be built next to this new hospital. November 2024, again, new hospital project will never happen. So we are hearing from Labour and Lib Dems essentially at this point, worrying about what's happening. And now in January 2025, the build is to go ahead following a review. And that's the most recent from the BBC. We have a quote from Wes Streeting, who actually came out to see the new site in Consett. So if we could put that up on the screen, if we have it. Here he was saying, we have secured the funding, producing a realistic timetable with spades in the ground for a new hospital site in Consett in 2026, 2027. It was great to see the site myself and hear from Labour councillors how important the investment will be to regenerating Consett. Labour will deliver this new hospital building so patients in Consett get the care they deserve. Now, originally, when they reported on their report regarding what they were going to do or not do, they criticized the Conservative government for not putting enough money in place. And then, but, you know, as we've seen here, there's been off and on and off and on. So now they're saying they're going to do it. The local MP called Liz Twist, who's Labour for Blayton and Consett, said, when West visited the site a few months ago, she said, having the health secretary here is a clear indication that Labour is delivering for Consett and the surrounding communities. The new site will have state-of-the-art facilities and much improved transport links. I'm keen to keep working with all the relevant stakeholders to ensure this project is built and delivered within the time frame and to improve healthcare within our communities. So the local magazine called Consett Magazine covered this as well. So they were showing when they came out to visit and basically saying, well, all right, this is what's happening. And so now we'll just wait to see what happens, Brian. I don't know if it will get built or not or how much it will cost, but this is happening around the country. So check your local areas if you're in England to see what's going on with your hospital.
Diane, thank you very much for that report. Well, the words are there, aren't they? It's always jam tomorrow, utopia tomorrow, everything will be okay tomorrow. But what we constantly see is that when tomorrow comes, there's more of the shambles. So I have no confidence in what is happening here. And I think the chaos that you are seeing is part of the overall chaos to destroy the NHS as this massive privatisation coming in. Now, Ben, I'm going to look at you and say, so is AI going to solve the problem?
No, it's not. It's certainly not going to solve the problem, although they're going to make good use of the chaos in the NHS at Trafalgar Square, as we heard earlier. That was an excellent report, Diane, and also that report by Wilsey was top notch. That was brilliant. And last week we had chaos outside of migrant hotels in Epping and further afield. So there's chaos going on all over the place. And in the background, an invasion is happening. And I don't mean an invasion of illegal immigrants, I mean something quite different, actually, as I'll get into. And I'm going to start this in the Oval Office on January 21st this year, day one of the second Trump administration, the announcement of Project Stargate, $500 billion to build AI data centers across the whole of the US, essentially mass surveillance and genetic engineering infrastructure, really nightmare stuff, delivered through a public-private partnership commissioned by the state, represented here by Donald Trump, and delivered by the private sector, by corporations represented by Massasan from SoftBank on the left there, Larry Ellison from Oracle, basically Tony Blair's top funder over the past 20, 30 years, and importantly, Sam Altman, the founder of OpenAI, one of the top minds in artificial intelligence, also affectionately named by the Washington Post King of the Cannibals. That's quite a name, isn't it?
Yeah.
King of the Cannibals, Sam Altman. Maybe I'll come back to that a little bit later on. So this is rumbling on, as you'd expect. In fact, it's not rumbling. They've gone right out of the gate. Trump's AI vision takes shape as Oracle and OpenAI expand a massive Stargate infrastructure project in Texas. So they have broken ground. They are making headway. This is the Abilene, Texas site just a few weeks ago. Provide a link to this article. You can go and have a look at it. So it's all guns blazing in the US. But also, importantly, they're moving internationally as well. And they announced at the end of May the UAE Stargate project. So this is in Abu Dhabi. And the World Economic Forum, interestingly, very excited about this. Remember those people that Trump is the enemy of? Well, they really like this policy. It's interesting, that, isn't it? So the UAE Stargate project hints at how AI can be integrated into national infrastructure, crucially. Right, and let's have a little listen to Chris Lahane, Chief Global Affairs Officer from OpenAI, talking about this project to Fox News a few days ago.
OpenAI is also launching Stargate UAE. It's the first international deployment of OpenAI's infrastructure platform. Joining me now, Chris Lahane, the Chief Global Affairs Officer at OpenAI. Chris, let me see if I've got this right. OpenAI is working directly with other countries, in this case UAE, to help their AI capacity, working in conjunction with the United States. Have I got that right?
You got that right. We think of this as OpenAI for countries, but in this particular case, it really follows on President Trump's visit to the UAE, really the Mideast last week. And I think this partnership really is going to accomplish two really important things. First of all, it's going to help advance making sure that U.S.-led democratic AI is being built around the world, here in the UAE case. And then secondly, this partnership also involves bringing money back into the U.S., investment back into the U.S., into U.S. infrastructure. So really a win-win, a win for making sure we're building the AI system on democratic U.S.-led rails, and a win bringing money back into the U.S. to build infrastructure for AI in the U.S., jobs, economic development that comes with that.
Did you make of that, Brian?
Well, I was wincing a bit, the idea of democratic AI coming from the US that it can sell in order to bring more money back into the US.
Yeah, right.
We're looking at global governance here. This is clear that we're now seeing the absolute end of the nation state.
But it's sovereign AI, though, importantly. But you have to buy it from OpenAI, right? So it's sovereign because they're going to build these data centers in your country, but you can only buy it from a handful of very carefully selected technology companies, all of them aligned to US imperialism. But it's not just US imperialism. It's something that's got hold of the United States, actually. I think that's probably a bit more like it. But I love that idea. You picked up on it. US-led democratic AI. It's a little bit like when the US would go and invade countries to deliver freedom to people, isn't it? Yes. It's a similar kind of thing, but they're just doing it by stealth now rather than by bombing people. Although they are doing some bombing too. Let's give them credit for that. Yeah, exactly. Yes, and they use the term US-led rails, right? So if you're on rails, if you're on a train, you can only go in one direction or back or forth, right? There's no way you can get off those rails. I think that's quite telling. Anyway, let's have a little listen to the second half of that clip.
Is there a worldwide contest between the United States and China not for dominance of AI, but for control of AI. Have I got that right?
Yeah, it's a great way to put it. Like right now in the world, there's two countries that can build AI at scale. That's, as you were saying, the U.S. and the communist-led People's Republic of China. Those are the only two countries that can build this at scale. And in this moment, the U.S. does have the innovation lead. We want to leverage that lead so that we're bringing as many countries as possible into the U.S. rails, the U.S. system. And I think what the president did last week, I think the way the administration is thinking about it, I think the way we at OpenAI are thinking about this in the context of Stargate International, in this case, Stargate UAE, is really how can we take advantage? How can we leverage the innovation lead we currently have to bring these countries in onto our rails, into our system? And I think that really then sets up, arguably, the next 100 years as we go forward.
So as a contest, it's a grand battle between capitalist America and communist China. And we've got to compete with each other to get as much of the world as possible onto our platform.
Onto US rails.
Exactly.
So this is the synthesis, isn't it?
Mm.
This is the final synthesis towards one world control, because whoever controls this AI system is ultimately going to control each nation state.
Exactly. That's exactly correct. And we've just heard about Abu Dhabi, so this is UAE, Middle East, but it's also just in the past few days hit continental Europe. Let's hear from Jensen Huang from NVIDIA.
Congratulations to everyone gathered in Oslo today, and to Prime Minister Støre and the government of Norway on this important milestone. The launch of Stargate Norway marks a new chapter for AI infrastructure in Europe. We're entering a new industrial era. Just as electricity and the internet became foundational to modern life, AI will become essential infrastructure. Every country will build it. Every industry will depend on it. AI is no longer hand-coded. It is trained. It is refined with massive compute. It is deployed into factories, research labs, and digital services. Stargate Norway will be powered by GB300 superchips and connected with NVLink. It is designed to scale to hundreds of thousands of GPUs and support the most advanced models in training, reasoning, and real-time inference. Congratulations to Nscale and to Josh Payne and the teams who helped make this possible. And congratulations to Sam and OpenAI on being part of this important first for the region. We're proud to support this effort. Tusen takk.
Tusen takk.
What came into my mind, Ben, was I think this story, this quote is right, but the man who produced the first Gatling gun, machine gun, said, well, this is going to be the weapon that stops all the war. So this gushing enthusiasm for what they've created without any concept of what this is actually going to do to humanity and mankind.
I don't know. I think he probably has some concept of it.
Okay.
Yeah. I think these people at the top know exactly what it's going to do. But essentially, what they're saying is this is going to. First of all, I've got a real that one hits me deep because I'm caught in Norwegian. That's where my mother's mother was from Norway, and he says "tusen takk" at the end there, and that means 1,000 thanks in Norwegian. And I just that really got to me. But he's talking about a total transformation of everything. Right, so AI apparently is going to become foundational infrastructure like electricity, like the internet. Every country will build it, as we talked about, but all industries will depend on it. Yeah, everything is going to run on these platforms built by these companies. And he mentioned, we've got a little bit of video here. We can see. So this is in the north of Norway, Narvik. This is OpenAI's European Gigafactory, but that was introduced by Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, who makes the microchips. OpenAI makes the software, but they're also working with a bunch of other companies to build the physical infrastructure. Importantly, of course, for the PR perspective, this is all on sustainable energy. It's going to create valuable new jobs. It's going to transform the Norwegian economy, political system, absolutely everything. This touches on every part of society. And it's called Stargate. So again, it's the same name Yeah, so it's almost like Operation Stargate, right? You think about the way that, Operation Desert Storm, Operation Stargate, it feels like that kind of program to me. And he also mentioned a guy by name, a young man called Josh Payne. And Josh Payne is the founder and chief executive officer of an organization called N-Scale. I got this from his LinkedIn profile. He was also, from 2020 to 24, the founder and executive chairman of something called Archon Energy. And it's a really fascinating name because in the Babylonian mystery religions, archons were the rulers of the world of darkness. But I think that's probably just a coincidence.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then the final role that he had was the co-founder and chief operating officer of Battery Future Acquisition Corp in Sydney, which focuses on raw materials for infrastructure. So this guy basically in the past 4 years has founded and run the businesses across the entire, what they call the value chain for artificial intelligence, from the raw materials used to build the technology to it being deployed across industries in Northern Europe in this instance. But before this, he's got absolutely no personal history. He's got no track record.
Yeah.
So if he looks, I don't know, what does he look? Late 30s, early 40s, young guy. If you go on his LinkedIn profile, it stops there at 2021. So we don't know who this guy is. Who is Josh Payne? And this is really crucial, right? Because he's building foundational infrastructure in the north of Europe, but also, from a UK perspective, he's building it in England too. Because back in January, N-Scale announced the investment of $2.5 billion in the UK data center industry over the next 3 years. And they've already broken ground on another one of these data centers in Loughton, in East London, in Epping Forest. And Peter Kyle, the Science, Innovation and Technology Secretary, said that their support, N-Scale support, will serve as a catalyst for innovation, sending a clear message that Britain is the perfect home from home to drive growth. Home from home suggests people that don't live here, right? So there's international investors coming in and using this infrastructure. This guy who's only just turned up 4 years ago has been given hundreds of millions, billions of dollars to build this infrastructure. He's doing joint press releases with the Secretary of State. The BBC is running puff pieces saying that this is going to deliver jobs into East London. And we've got absolutely no idea where this has come from. But we do know that there's an organisation called OpenAI at the centre of it all, with a logo that when you flip it around and turn it back on itself, looks a little bit like that.
That's a coincidence, I'm sure, Ben.
Of course.
Thank you very much. Well, this is important stuff, and the mainstream media, at least in UK, is simply not reporting what is happening around us. So it'll remain to the UK column to do this. Now, we can only do what we do with your financial support. And so a huge thank you to everybody who is assisting the UK column. And if you are not a member or you're not donating or purchasing from our shop, go onto the website. And if you click the button, you can basically get into the donate page or join up as a member. Now, the other thing is huge amount of information on our website, and many people have not seen it because they don't go and look or they don't do a search. We just like to encourage you to get deep into the website and have a look at the hundreds and hundreds of articles, thousands and thousands of hours of video and reports which are there over nearly 20 years of UK column. Now, Diane, just to bring you in, because I think you've got some comments on a couple of the latest articles to go on the website.
Yes, thanks, Brian. We have one that we'll be talking about a little bit later in the program, but just two that were published last week that relate to the serious situation in the Middle East, which is impossible to cover in the time that we have in the news. So there's two articles to take a look at. One is by a journalist in Lebanon working with Vanessa Beeley, called The Last Army Standing, the U.S. Zionist Plan to Disarm the Middle East. And the other one is Vanessa's latest installment in her new blog series on Syria, if we can put that one up as well. This one is about Cyprus in particular, and U.S. and Israel clashing with Turkey over control of the Eastern Mediterranean. And just a bit later, we'll be talking about a new article related to wildfires and the sustainable developments, Brian.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And just to give people a reminder that Germ will be out tonight in a discussion with the EM Burlingame. And I'm sure that will be fascinating. So please join Germany's guest tonight at 7. And tomorrow at 1 o'clock, another interview going out with Professor Gloria Moss. Do you want to say a little bit there, Diane?
This is an incredibly important interview, Brian. This is part 3 of our 3-part series interview with Gloria. I did part 1 with her on universities and what's happening with them, the sad state of universities in the UK. And Ben did part 2 with her on her research on the differences between men and women in design. This one I titled How to Save Humanity. And this is literally about the transhumanist agenda that has been pervading our world for a very long time and continues to do so. But I want everyone to see this. It's very important to watch this, but we will give you some ideas at the end about what to do to save humanity.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And of course, we want to advertise the Freedom Music Festival coming up. Here we are, 22nd to the 25th of August. The UK column team, of course, will be there. It's going to be a great event. And you've got the opportunity for 20% off ticket prices if you use the code UKC20. Now, the other big thing is, of course, our UK column on location in York. Oh my goodness, well over half of the tickets have been sold already. Just a fantastic response. And of course, we've now started to announce the speakers. And Charles Mallet mentioned on Friday, Andrew Wakefield will be one of those key speakers. And we just wanted to remind people that aside from the tremendous event itself, as a ticket holder, you will get the opportunity to see Protocol 7 as well. So if you're not already on board, the tickets are going very, very quickly. And you really do need to get one if you're going to be there and join us. Now, Ben, you're going to take us into the realms of farmer and farming, which sounds to me like a bit of a dangerous combination.
Say that again. Yes, we're going to have a look at Big Farm. That's what I'm calling it. This is where farming and the pharmaceutical industries meet. Let's hear from Henry Dimbleby. Oh, we're going to get that.
Is that one going to come up?
I've been thinking a lot about appetite-suppressing drugs recently, and I don't think food companies are even close to being prepared for the kind of change that they might bring to bear in our food system, both in terms of what people eat, but also in terms of what we grow. What do we know so far? We know, for example, that in this country, 1.5 million people are taking them. It took SSRIs and statins 10, 13 years to get to that level of consumption. And people are paying £2,000 plus a year for these drugs. We also know that the price is going to come down. We know that they're going to be available in pill form. We know that people eat differently, not just less volume when they're on them, but different quality of food, more fruit and veg, less junk food, less donuts, more fiber. And so if you play that forward, what happens? Well, we have a situation where convenience shops, supermarkets, restaurants are selling a very different mix of food and less food, but also our supply, which has grown up basically being built on refined calorie base of refined carbohydrates, refined vegetable oils and refined sugar, it could change that as well. So it might not just change what's on your high street, it could also change what you see when on our land, how our land is used. It's going to be a pretty wild ride. And if you aren't thinking about this in terms of your business 5 years from now, it's probably time you should start, because it's going to be a pretty crazy transition, I think.
Well, that's encouraging crazy transition.
Yeah, right.
That's what we need to help run our lives. Chaos and crazy transitions.
Exactly that, right? And regular viewers will remember Dr. Liz Evans did a segment about 2 months ago, I think it was, talking about Ozempic and these weight loss drugs and the fact that they're causing cancers, and there's been no proper oversight in terms of the regulator, and actually they're destroying people's bones, and we've got no idea of the long-term health effects of these things. And yet we've got Henry Dimbleby here saying that we need to transform the food system in response to those drugs, because essentially they are here to stay now, right? That doesn't strike me as a reasonable strategy, someone in a position of influence in the food system, and he does have significant influence in the food system. He launched a fund last year, we reported it at the time, to transform the global food system, to disrupt it and commercialise it for his own benefit ultimately. Starting here in the UK, it's called Bramble Partners. There we go. They're on a mission to fix what they call the broken food system with investments in intelligence to create impact at scale. And that's all about tackling climate change, obviously, restoring the environment, improving health and well-being, increasing food security, all of the kind of buzzwords. Quite a lot of occult symbolism on the website, to be honest with you. There's the Masonic bee on there and also the Hermetic seed of life. So make of that what you will. And that actually carries through to Mr. Dimbleby's LinkedIn profile. You can see the bumblebee on the left-hand side there, where we discover that a few years ago, he was actually the author of the National Food Strategy between 2019 and 22, and I'll come back to that in a moment, while at the same time working as the lead non-executive director at DEFRA, and also working as an external advisor to Bain. So there was an overlap between working at DEFRA and working with Bain. And Bain is one of the big three strategy firms alongside McKinsey and BCG, who are the basically dictate policy for global corporate and increasingly for international governments as well. And they are strategic partners of the World Economic Forum. So you want to understand how WEF policy gets inserted into the UK government, it's through people like this, doing dual roles between public and private sector. Right? And Bain, fascinatingly, notoriously one of the most ruthless, commercially ruthless consulting firms in the world. And in 2022, when Mr. Dimbleby was working with them, they actually got banned from working in South Africa for 10 years for orchestrating what is called a state capture. So essentially, they repurposed state institutions to the advantage of the firm, the government, and its private sector allies. Right. So I can't imagine that anything like that was happening in the UK at the same time, although it did actually lead to a 3-year ban on delivering UK government work, which was overturned after just 6 months. Apparently, they really want to work with Bain. Obviously, Mr. Dimbleby has now gone off to Bain. So, you know, I'm sure that there's nothing going on here.
Nothing
untoward. Yeah, absolutely. They also, interestingly, Bain provided, and again, I reported on quite a lot of this last year, but it's useful to just restate this in the context of how this is developing. Bain also provided supplementary evidence to the development of the National Food Strategy. So actually, these are the people who are inputting into what's going to happen next in our food supply. Also, Dave Halpin from Behavioural Insights team is in the mix as well. And in there, they talk about the food system as a series of interconnected industrial processes. It's a value chain, essentially, from left to right, all the different component parts. Lots and lots of big corporates in there. You can see a Tesco logo, Mars, Tate & Lyle, all those kinds of people. They're particularly interested in this bit, though, produce. This is farms, basically. And the big weakness, apparently, in the UK food system is that there are too many independently owned farms, and we need to consolidate those into corporate entities that can trade more effectively with the other big corporate component parts of the supply chain. And interestingly, what are Bramble Partners, Henry Dimbleby's firm, up to? They just launched a few months ago the 1 Million Hectares Coalition, a new national movement to regenerate 1 million hectares of UK farmland in the next decade. And it's about 5% of our total farmland. And that will very neatly align with the interests of the pharmaceutical industry and international capital, as Mr. Dimbleby was talking about in the video we shared at the start.
Yeah, incredible. Regenerate 1 million hectares, and at the same time, we destroy farming land to put in the renewable energy system. So complete madness and chaos, but deliberate. But I noticed that the people taking control of the food supply or already embedded in it are regarded as players. That's how they were labelled in your diagram. They're merely players in the food system.
Indeed.
Okay. Well, a quick change of subject here. And really, I'm going to précis this. We'll discuss it more in extra time. But last Monday's news, I did report that a The gentleman had his home invaded, arrested by South Yorkshire police, his computers taken, and this was all because he'd done 30 years worth of research into the cover-up of child abuse. Really incredible research. I'm going to say this individual is well known to the UK column. His work is exceptionally good. And over the years, he's been able to show that the cover-up of child abuse has run through the very systems and organisations that say they're there to protect children, such as the police, but also into the government systems itself, such as the Crown Prosecution Service and the higher levels of government. Now, just to give you a flavour, South Yorkshire Police have now said, well, because we know that some police officers were involved in what was going on, we were going to originally let ICPO investigate, and that's now been passed on to the National Crime Agency. But just to set the scene with one of these slides, we'll make sure that all this information is available in the show notes. This is Hayley Barnett, the Assistant Chief Constable of South Yorkshire Police. She said, well, this is a very sensitive investigation, and the victim survivors have steadfastly remained our number one priority over many months. I've had conversations at the highest level with IOPC and the National Crime Agency to ensure these courageous women truly remain at the heart of our work, and that the mode of investigation remains appropriate. So it seems an extraordinary coincidence at the very time that South Yorkshire Police is very nervous about its implication, and indeed that of other forces, in not only child abuse, but the cover-up of that abuse, that suddenly somebody who's investigated this subject for 30 years using primary public sources is raided by the police. All of his computers and information is taken, and he goes through what he felt was a pretty brutal interrogation in the police station, where he was held in a pretty cold cell, denied food and medication at one point, all because he has pulled together public information which demonstrates this cover-up. So I'm going to say that UK column will actually cover more of this report in due course. But if we just say, put this slide up here, we've basically got the comment from Hayley Barnett. She says, it's for these reasons and in mutual agreement with our partners that I've asked the National Crime Agency to take ownership of this operational work. But a lot of questions need to be asked as to whether the arrest of this man and his 30 years of data about the cover-up of child abuse is to enable South Yorkshire Police and its partners to whitewash government failures to protect children, or indeed to actually protect people in the system who were abusing children themselves. So this is quite a story. We're going to stick with it, and we will give you more detail, and we'll discuss more in Extra today. Diane, let's come back to you, and beg your pardon, let's just finish this one, and I should be able to bring up your section. And you're going to talk to us about the subject of wildfires and really some of this amazing fear factor around super hot summers. Clearly, we haven't got that in Plymouth today. But be fearful of the temperature. Stay locked in your house. There's going to be fires. There's going to be plagues. This is terrible fear-mongering.
Oh, absolutely, Brian. I'm seeing it all over these so-called local papers on social media talking about, lock your windows, don't go outside because it's burning, global boiling out there. But I want to bring you back to yesterday. There was a fire that broke out on Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh. I think we have some video of this to show what it looked like yesterday before they started to fight the fires. Basically what happened was in Edinburgh, of course, in August, I was there last weekend. This is the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, the International Festival, lots of things going on in Edinburgh over the summer in August. And unfortunately, Arthur's Seat, which is the big extinct volcano that sort of overlooks the city, broke out in a terrible fire yesterday. And this is also happening when Oasis concerts are happening all at the same time with the festivals going on. So 140,000 fans over the first 2 nights sold out at Murrayfield Stadium by Oasis, as well as a third one that will be coming on Tuesday. According to Scottish and Fire Rescue Service, this has been a terrible summer for wildfires across Scotland, including in the Highlands. And it says the Highland wildfires are considered so far the biggest Scotland has ever seen. And so we're seeing in Edinburgh and in Scotland where, you would not assume that there would have been a problem with water in Scotland, because it's kind of everywhere. That's just a joke. But anyway, so tied to this, we're seeing wildfires in the south of France. And I last got a very quick article sent to me by Neil Harrison late last week on Friday, actually. And we decided to prioritize this editorially because he's a frequent contributor to UK Column, happy to say, and because the wildfires were going, as he basically wrote this article and sent it to us for publication. And what he said at the start of this article, you can read the full thing, but just to understand the scope of this fire in the south of France, he was writing this on day 4, close to where he has a house. He said, at the moment, 17,000 hectares of land in the department have been burnt, many villages completely gutted, transport and electricity cut over a vast area, and a flame front that yesterday took up a length of 80 kilometers. So he goes on to talk about how desperately the firefighters have been working very hard to stop the fire, but it has not been happening. He talked to some locals there, and one person said, quote, "All of our children here are taught that the best way of controlling fires is our vineyards. They are natural fire breaks. Vineyards are watered, the vines are covered in green, wet leaves, weeds and dried grasses are cut, but unfortunately it has been government and EU policy to rip up the vineyards and return the land to the wild." And as he pointed out in the article, the scientific justification for destroying vineyards to satisfy Agenda 2030 requirements is based on soil degradation, loss of organic matter erosion, low carbon sequestration compared to natural vegetation or agroforestry. So I think there are some important questions for us to ask here. We're seeing breakouts of wildfires because it's apparently global boiling everywhere. What is causing these fires? Are there reasons for this that are related to Agenda 2030 and Sustainable Development Goals? Or is it just because it's so terribly hot, the fires are breaking out everywhere? Are there arsons involved? There have been a lot of questions around this, but I think it's just important for us to maybe think about this and ask the question about why it is that so much is happening around wildfires this summer.
Thank you very much for that, and apologies about the footage there from Scotland, but I'm sure many people have seen the film clips on wider media. With regard to the wildfires, I'll just add that, of course, one of the things we were told by firefighters in America when some of the really big woodland fires were burning there, forest fires were burning, was that in many areas the firefighting teams had not been allowed to create fire breaks or indeed deal with debris, very dry debris on the forest floors. And this was helping to create very, very intense fires with rolling fireballs going over the tree canopy and jumping considerable distances. So firefighters in America, some of them at least, blaming the authorities on saying that they were preventing the firefighters from actually doing preemptive work to stop the fires. Let's just end on a positive note, Diane. And you've got a very lush green picture of UK here. I don't think it's very likely fires are going to break out in this environment. What is your message for us?
Well, I just wanted to say to get out and enjoy it while we can. Don't forget, it is summer. It is summer holidays still for children, and we all should be just getting out and enjoying the beautiful weather. This was me a couple of days ago going to Corbridge, which is a beautiful village up here in the northeast of England in Northumbria. And as we can see, you can't see in the photo, but the village car park was completely packed. And we can see people there walking to and from the car park, across the bridge, across the river, enjoying the cafes and the shops and everything. And I spent a few hours there and just enjoyed it. So feel free to do the same, because the warm weather is what we're supposed to be experiencing here in August, even if it is the UK.
Yeah, I think it's called the summer, Diane. And yes, wonderful weekend. Lots of people having a very good time outside in the sunshine. And we say to our audience, do the same. Get out there, fresh air, sunshine, relax and enjoy some normal life with your friends and family and good, normal people. We must end it there. Huge thank you to the UK Column audience, wherever you are. Remember, there are still some tickets available for the conference in York, but if you haven't got a ticket, I'm going to encourage you to buy. Somebody's going to be disappointed very soon at the rate these tickets are going. We've got more speakers to be announced. We're really looking forward to you being there. So get onto the UK Column website and have a look for those tickets. We must end the news there. Huge thank you to everybody. Thank you, Ben and Diane. We'll be back for UK Column Extra in a few minutes, and we'll look deeper into that story about South Yorkshire Police and the cover-up of child abuse. Thanks very much for joining us. Bye-bye.